Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your friendship podcast that's actually a Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. My name is Travis, and I'm joined by the entire crew. I've got Benjamin here.
Hello.
Derek is here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Randy is here.
Howdy.
Boys, we're playing Marvel Crisis Protocol now because Kristen and I learned it. And now I'm going to share it with all of you.
Cool.
It was really good. I had a great time. So Kristen and I had a little romantic getaway weekend last weekend. And the first thing we thought of was, if we have no dogs and no toddler, what do we want to do? And we decided we wanted to learn a new complicated board game. And that's what we did.
The Catholic way.
Well, don't worry. It was still a romantic weekend.
I know, I'm just messing with you.
But what are you going to do all day on a Sunday, you know?
She was probably like, that's what I was hoping all day, but no kidding.
Guys, I really enjoyed Marvel Crisis Protocol. Kristen decided to play the X-Men, and then I played mostly the Brotherhood of Mutants, but with Ultron on my team also.
Well,
that seems a pretty stacked team.
It was awesome.
Just from a lore perspective. Jesus.
Magneto and Ultron
Solo?
are bosom buddies, for sure.
Are y'all playing against each other?
Yeah, Kristen and I were playing against each other.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had no idea that they were going to synergize as well as they did, but Magneto has a bunch of abilities that destroy terrain on the battlefield.
Okay.
And then Ultron has an ability that says whenever terrain is destroyed, Ultron drones rise from it.
Oh my god.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. It was cool as hell. And Kristen was like, that's not fair. I was like, hey, you got Wolverine. He's not fair.
Did you win?
I did win, guys. And it literally came down to the last dice roll.
Oh, so it was a good close battle.
So yeah, well-balanced game.
It was a very, very close battle. So the mission we were playing was to gather the Cosmic Cube fragments, and Kristen's last turn, she basically sacrificed Beast by picking up 4 Cosmic Cube fragments, but then at the end of each turn, the cube fragments deal damage to you. So she got a ton of victory points from Beast doing that, but then Beast died at the end of that turn. And so literally during this last turn of the game, because the game only goes 6 turns long and then it stops, my only choice was to outright kill Wolverine in order to win.
Not an easy task.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the victory conditions are, have the most victory points at the end of the turn, or every member of your opponent's team is defeated. So I was like, well, I don't have enough victory points, so I just have to kill Wolverine this turn. And it literally came down to the last dice roll of Magneto trying to kill Wolverine.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
It was cool as hell, y'all. It was awesome.
I will remind everyone and the listener to go watch X-Men 97.
Ooh, I have not seen that yet.
The best X-Men content they've ever made on TV.
Ooh, okay. I know. I've heard lots of good things about it, and no spoilers or anything, so I'm primed and ready to go for it.
Well, viewer discretion advised. It's got some mutants in it.
Oh.
Freaks!
Mutants.
Make me sick!
They don't deserve to live.
I've seen memes like that where it's like mutants
Freaks.
just save the day. Like, oh, freaks!
Oh my god. Yeah, I think it was wasn't it an Instagram one of y'all sent in a group chat?
I might have
Like,
been, yeah.
Hey, Captain America, how'd you get your powers? Super Soldier Serum. Wow, that's so cool. Hawkeye, how'd you get powers? Lots of practice. Wow, really neat. Professor X, how'd you get powers? I was born this way. Sick.
Freak.
Disgusting! I tell you, it's disgusting.
Anybody else do anything cool in the last week?
I got my office set up, which doesn't sound
Yeah.
exciting, but I have all the memorabilia and art and signed posters and all the different things that we've picked up at conventions. And
Nice.
yeah, it's coming along. It looks good. So if anybody wants to come visit my office, then send us an email and I'll do some legal work for you.
I especially liked all your Ninja Turtle stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Very cool. Derek, Randy, how's y'all's week?
I took Bandit to dog school this week.
Oh.
And how did he do?
It was pretty chaotic at the moment, but
Yeah.
now that we've been practicing at home with no distractions, it's going very well. I've learned how to lure, and I can make him sit with nonverbal cues.
Oh.
Wow, very
Yeah.
good.
It's very cool. That was only day one.
Oh, okay.
Nice job, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's half Bandit, so
Yeah.
congrats to him.
Well, I had a complete opposite experience. While we were out on our romantic getaway, Daisy was picking fights at boarding.
Oh, no.
Apparently, they had 2 dogs out at once, which they weren't supposed to do, and Daisy slipped out of her leash and started a scuffle,
Mm-hmm.
and then Daisy could not finish what she started.
Oof.
And Daisy has 3 huge puncture wounds on her chest
Oh.
Oof.
from this other dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
They have given us the medicine for her, and they are going to, Benjamin, I talked about this with you already, they are going to refund us her boarding.
Oh,
so
nice. Okay.
we're good. But the incident report very much placed the blame on Daisy.
We
It was
will
like,
refund
Daisy
you.
slipped her leash and ran up to the other dog.
It's like, we will
I
refund
was
you,
like, oh,
but
God.
you're not allowed back.
No, they didn't. Nobody said anything about that, so I think we're still good.
You're shadow banned. You just don't know it yet.
I don't think we've been blacklisted just yet.
Oh, speaking of, was that Daisy in the
That
background?
sound like a Duke shake if I've ever heard one.
It was a Duke shake, you're right. Thank you for the reminder. Listener, I apologize. I have both dogs in the room with me because my wife is out to see a play. Ugh,
Culture.
God. Out to see a play with one of our friends in the play. She thinks it's important to go support her or something. So, when you hear random sounds in the background, that's my dogs.
It's not a thief breaking in, jingling keys.
If you hear that on
Jingle, it's the Wet Bandits. Jingle, jingle, hello.
if you hear that on anyone else's mic, then it is a bandit and we are in trouble.
Yes.
Please call the police.
Okay, hold on. I just, my daughter just walked into the room, so let me go take her back to bed.
Is
Listen,
it
the
Lily-
wives
is
are
Liliana.
out of town and the mice are out to play.
Yep.
Duke, can you literally lay down, please? Aw, good boy. Randy, how's your week?
It's been pretty good. Didn't really do anything too crazy this weekend. I got to see my cousin Casey for like the first time in like 3 or something years.
Cool.
So that was that, or maybe it was 5 years. I don't remember.
Are y'all close?
Of all my cousins, yeah, I would say him and his brother are the ones I'm closest to. Even though they're probably like the rowdiest ones, or they were, I guess, since they've grown up.
Yeah.
But they're still really funny. But yeah, they're definitely my closest cousins.
Cool. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Always good to see family. Y'all doing anything for Father's Day this weekend?
Have not heard anything.
I asked my dad if he wanted to do anything. He said no. So I guess I'm not doing anything.
My dad called me and he was like, well, just wanted to see if you were doing anything. Don't set aside any plans because of me. But if you have no plans and I have no plans, then we can grab lunch or something.
So I'm begging you, please set aside your plans. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm too proud to say.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad, he's got a girlfriend, and not new-ish. I mean, they've been dating for like 2 months, 3 months, something like that. But I can't get the man on the phone anymore. I'm having too much fun.
Oh my gosh.
Too much.
Thomas Williams, answer the phone for your son. Derek, does he listen to the pod?
No, he doesn't even know what a podcast is,
Oh my
and
god.
I'll never tell him. I don't want to have that conversation.
Benjamin, has Dad called you for anything for Father's Day this weekend?
No, surprisingly.
No, it's okay. He said he did call me, but he was like, I might be busy, I might not. If you make plans, don't set aside any plans for me. But if you're free, then let me know, and maybe we can have lunch in Pearland or something.
Yeah.
You know me, son. I'm always running the roads. You don't know whose
Yeah.
bed I'm in.
Well, Derek, Dad has got a new girlie
Oh, okay.
that he is running the roads with. Her name is Frances,
Okay.
and they go dancing like every weekend.
Oh.
And you know what
Dancing.
dancing leads to, if we've all seen Footloose.
Aches and
Advil.
pains at the age that they're at.
Advil. I'm just saying, dancing is one of our culture's first signs of virility.
You know, my dad goes dancing too, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, never in my life, or I feel like any of my friends' life, have they said, let's go dancing. Let's go out, let's go, cut it up.
It's a different generation thing. My
Yeah.
dad,
Yeah,
my dad
Yeah,
and them
it
used
is.
to do that all the time.
it's just such a
Well,
bizarre.
I wish we still did. I love country
Man,
dancing.
I did in college. What were y'all doing? We went dancing
mean,
all
We
the
go to the
time.
Playing
clubs and
D&D.
stuff.
Playing D&D. Okay. Nerds. Bunch of nerds.
No, we went out to shenanigans, shenafties.
Cut foot loose.
I think Dad told me his bar in Huntsville was called the Foxhole.
Yep, it's still there.
Oh, still there. Wow.
That
I think
was
I've
more
been
of the,
there.
that was more of the Greek life people.
Oh, okay.
hang out. I
Well,
went
that
there
makes
once
sense.
for one of the Halloweens, and it was like, yep, these look like a bunch of frat bros and sorority girls.
Wow.
In Austin, we had a place called the Broken Spoke, which was pretty fun. And of course, there was always Midnight Rodeo.
Is that what you call it?
Sounds cool. Is that what you call it?
Midnight Rodeo was weird because it was like half country dancing, half hip hop. They would like switch back and forth.
That's kind of cool, actually.
There's a little bit of shenanigans later on in the night.
At University of St. Thomas, on Tuesdays, we would go to House of Pies.
Ooh.
Okay.
I know. Late night breakfast.
Wild
And that
ones.
was pretty much it. Saturdays were kind of dead at UST. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. We have got a shout out this week for our newest patron, Dahlia.
Yay, Dahlia.
Woo, Dahlia. Thank
Dahlia.
you so much for joining the pod, for sticking around. You are one of our loyal patrons, and this episode is for you. Listeners, if you can find us at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta, where we've got wonderful perks waiting for you. Benjamin, what's the first perk?
You get 20% off at eldoradogaming.com. And I will tell you, we just got some new D6s in that are beautiful. So check those out and get anything that you want at eldoradogaming.com for 20% off just by subscribing to our Patreon.
Randy, what's the next perk?
Early and ad-free content. If you're a Patreon member, you never have to worry about ads getting inserted into the middle of your podcast, which from what I hear is right around the corner.
That's right, y'all. It is happening. It happened last week, and you do not want to see what the future holds for advertising. Get into the Patreon, and you'll never have to worry about it. All that, plus access to the My Mythical Meta Discord server. This is where the four of us are right now, where we record episodes, and where we chat and communicate throughout the week. Derek, have you got a surprise Patreon perk for us this week?
Yes.
Yes.
If someone subscribes, someone from the podcast will send you a heartfelt and sincere letter.
Snail mail.
Through the Discord. We'll just scan a copy in and we'll just send it to you through Discord.
Okay.
It won't be me. I did not sign up for the extra work.
No, Derek has to do it. It has to be from you, Derek, for
I-
phoning in that perk.
I don't want it.
You can't make someone else go find a scanner after.
I wish I had one. Jeez.
Oh, darn. All of
I'm
us have
sure
one
you
in our
do.
phones.
Dag-
It's called the Notes app.
Oh man, you're not gonna believe this, but my phone actually.
Randy's going to go, I have an Android, so I don't
I
have
don't
the
have an
Notes app."
Android.
I actually cast my phone into the fire. Of Mount
It's
Doom.
Nicky to have Android. I mean, I'm right on the corner though.
Oh, Randy, you still have the iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
For now.
I guess I had lost track of what phone you're on. At the beginning of this episode, you heard me talking about my experience learning Marvel Crisis Protocol, and that's what today's episode is about. We're going to talk about learning new games. We talked before, way back in Season 1, Episode 5. We talked about some methods for teaching a game. But today's episode is about learning a game. Knowing how you learn is going to help you to pick up games faster. Instead of trying a bunch of strategies that you know don't work, you can let your friends know and your teachers know how you best learn. And that is going to reduce everyone's frustration. Benjamin, you are our most recent teacher in the pod. What is it like knowing how your students learn? Or how maybe one problem student learns? What is it like having that knowledge at your disposal?
It's great when you finally figure out ways to reach students that have been unreachable, or ways to engage students that have kind of checked out or have become distracting because they're distracted. It's like flipping on a switch in your classroom that it doesn't just help those people, but it also helps all the people around them to have one more student engaged. So for me, it's great. Like, you just find something that interests somebody, and it can take your experience to the next level. So it's not just better for them, it also makes the teacher feel better.
Absolutely. Whoever is teaching you your game is going to feel better because they're going to feel successful, that you understood what they were trying to get across.
Yeah.
Benjamin, I remember you telling us a few weeks ago about how you were kind of gamifying the last 6 weeks of your politics class.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us just a little bit more about how maybe that reached or engaged some students who had not been reachable before?
Yeah, so I created this really in-depth simulation where the students played as countries and they had to allocate their political capital amongst different things. It was kind of like a role-playing game, but but on a world politics level instead of individual characters. And there were a lot of people that really got into it that hadn't been into things before. I could tell they hadn't paid attention to the lead up to it, because when they learned something, they were like, "This is so cool! I didn't realize that." And it would be like, "Well, that was in your notes last week."
Oh my God!
But the thing is, that's kind of the point, right? They didn't get it the first way, but they got it the next way. They got it the way that I wanted to. That was the whole point of having a simulation. Was for the students who already got it, it would really drive the point home, or they could use that knowledge to get ahead or something like that. And some of them definitely did so. And then the ones who maybe didn't get it, they would just play the game and see what was happening. And the hope was that something would click and they go, "Oh, so that's what happens if I put all my points into military and don't leave anything for social welfare." Or things like that. And I think it worked. I think a lot of people experienced different things in different ways, but they all were able to figure out something new. And I think it was great.
So that's kind of the idea of this week's episode, is we're going to talk about some different ways that people learn, and we're going to talk about some of our experiences in learning games. And again, this is just another way to know thyself. If you know how you best succeed, then you can give those tools to others and to yourself so that everyone feels better and has more fun, so that you maximize the fun in your life. You have probably heard in the past, or as you were growing up, or while you were in school, that there are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. There is this idea that some people learn best by watching something, maybe through film or through theater, or just by watching the teacher perform something by example. The idea that some people learn through listening, through a podcast, or by recording notes and re-listening to them again. And lastly, kinesthetic learners learn by doing. So a lot of them will physically highlight notes, or they'll make foldables or flashcards, something that incorporates movement into the way that they're learning. This is not entirely true, but it's not entirely false either. There are actually, by the educational philosopher Howard Gardner, he proposes that there are 8 of these intelligences, these multiple ways through which people learn. We are familiar with the visual spatial learner. That's the visual learner. We're familiar with the musical learner. This would be an auditory learner, someone who learns through rhythms or beats or music. And then there's the body kinesthetic learner, someone who learns through movement. But there are several more. There are linguistic learners. These students will often do well in English or reading or languages. There's the interpersonal learner, which means relationships with other people. They want to get to know things like moods and detect senses and how people react to certain knowledge or certain situations. There's the intrapersonal learner, which opposite of interpersonal, which means looking outward, intrapersonal people look inward. They want to identify a person's soul or figure out what different knowledge does to a person's identity. There's also the naturalistic learner, someone who looks at the natural world around them, plants, the sky, the earth, rocks, mountains, etc. And then there's the logical learner or the mathematical learner. They're going to look at cause and effect and looking at facts and figures. Now, obviously, that was a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and I don't expect anyone to know what all of those mean or even to pick one for yourself. Most people exist on a spectrum, and that's what a lot of public education tries to do, is they're going to try to cast the net wide and try to catch as many learners as they can in each lesson. That's what a good educator is going to try to do. They're going to try to come up with lots of different ways to disseminate information and to allow students to demonstrate their mastery by giving them lots of different possible tasks. When I was a teacher, we would do things like choice boards or menus, where we would give students lots of different possible projects or lots of different options to demonstrate that they learned something, or to demonstrate that they learned, whatever material was at hand for that unit. And we based all of those different projects off of these intelligences so that students could pick what they were good at. They could pick the medium through which they could perform the best. Like the psychographics in episode 27, we talked about the Wizards of the Coast player psychographics, the way that players appreciate games. Most people exist on a spectrum. When you consider yourself as a learner, you should try to consider how you best learn. And we're going to talk about how we learn board games, or card games, or role-playing games. The things that we like to do in order to help us understand games in a better way. Let's talk about ways to learn a game.
Okay.
Benjamin, I feel like you're a rulebook guy.
Yeah, I am definitely a rulebook guy. And
you just read the rulebook cover to cover and know the game?
At least if I read it cover to cover, I at least know the basics of the game. And then, whenever I hit a snag or something where I'm like, I'm not sure how that works, I look it up again and then keep going. And usually after the first run through with the rulebook handy, I will feel like I've mastered it. And I find that works pretty well. I do find that a lot of people who might be learning a game with me, they're like, nah, stop reading, let's play. And for me, I don't want that, because I don't want something that I could have known by reading the rules to go by without me getting it. More importantly, I don't want anybody that I'm with to accuse me or have a feel bad moment because it wasn't stated that you could do that. Yeah. Or that you couldn't do that. And so I feel like that feel bad moment is worse than the I'm bored with you reading the rules. So.
Okay. Derek and Randy, are either of you rulebook guys? You just read the rules ahead of time and sit down to play?
Okay. So for me, I will do the reading a rulebook for certain games, especially if I know I'm going to be the one that's maybe trying to teach someone else something.
Yeah.
I'll read the rule book, and then if I don't understand it, I'm like, okay, now let me go watch someone else play it, because I feel like I can glean a lot from that of okay, so that's how a round works. But I definitely want to read a rule book to get as much info as I can if I'm going to be the one teaching. If I'm just trying to learn a game for the first time, just reading sometimes doesn't always stick.
Sure.
For me, I'll skim a rule book. First out the gate, I need to know what the objective is. What are we trying to do? Otherwise, nothing's going to make sense to me, and the brain's not working. So I have to know, how do we finish the game?
Something cut out there.
Yeah.
Is anybody?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear what he said.
Bandit probably just chewed through his cable. All that training for what? Well, that's a series wrap on Derek, guys. It's been good knowing him.
A thief broke into Derek's house. He warned us it would happen.
He did. He said it.
I can tell y'all another fun thing that Kristen and I did over the weekend.
Yeah.
We went to this plant nursery, kind of on the main strip, and we picked up 2 carnivorous plants.
All right.
We have a Venus flytrap and a monkey cup, which is like a pitcher plant. So it has that sweet nectar at the bottom of the cup.
Yeah.
and then bugs will fall in and they can't crawl out.
Yeah, get them.
Dang, Derek said his internet went out.
Oh no.
Well, we named the Venus flytrap Hugh Jackman, and the Monkey Cup's name is Leaf Schreiber. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming is your site for gifts and gaming accessories like dice, playmats, and other items to bling out your games. This product showcase is our treasure dice. For the fledgling dice goblin and for longtime collectors, these dice come in 8 beautiful and striking color varieties. If you want to try out the weight and feel of metal dice, these are the dice for you. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Find us on YouTube at Eldorado Gaming TX or our home site at eldoradogaming.com. All right, well, unfortunately, Derek's internet went out.
Let's just
Yeah,
do
I
our
think
best.
so.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. In my opinion, I can kind of go either way. Like, I could read a whole rulebook, but I feel like unless so I'm talking about a board game in this instance.
Yeah.
Or I guess card games too. Unless I see the physical pieces moving around, like following what the rules say should be happening to those pieces, then I won't understand what the rulebook is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless I can see the physical pieces moving. I have vivid memories, Benjamin, whenever we were learning to play Scythe at your house.
Yeah.
And like, I'll have my little board in front of me and my little blocks on all my pieces. And as Benjamin is describing things, I'm over here physically moving my blocks onto the board, or physically moving my blocks from one section to another, because I need to see what that looks like on my board so that I can manage my workers or manage my resources.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way, like a good way to combine the teaching and the learning is if one of us is a rules person and the other is a move the pieces person, then have all the pieces out and like as someone reads them, have the other person put things in place and move them, and then everyone can see. So I think that's a good way to do it.
I feel like I have to do that in order to understand what the game is talking about. Because, I mean, imagine a game like Terraforming Mars. Benjamin, have you played this game?
I have not.
It's pretty good.
You have it?
But yes, I do.
Oh.
It's another resource management game,
right,
where there's energy, there's material, there's steel, there's just lots of different things, and you have lots of resource pools that you have to keep track of throughout the game.
Yeah.
And if I'm reading just the rulebook, saying it costs 2 energy to do this, it costs 3 steel to do this, it costs whatever, that like those numbers by themselves won't mean anything to me.
Right.
But if I can see that my pile of energy got shorter, or I can see that the pile of chits that I have on one section is now lower or being moved to another section, those things are going to help me visualize the importance of a resource in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Check the tomb on the 3rd day, baby. I'm back.
All right, Derek's back. Very good. Glad to have you back, buddy. Is it storming over there, or?
Nope, just kicked the...
Or just a nothing?
Kicked the cord out of the wall by accident.
Oh, that'll do it. Well, tell us what it's like for you. How do you best learn a game?
So the way I learn best is usually by figuring it out myself. Like, I need to know what the objective of the game is for starters, just so I know what I'm working towards. That way everything kind of makes sense as like a building block to that goal. But I feel like I learn best when I'm figuring it out myself. Like, everything's kind of like a puzzle that starts fitting together. Like, oh, I need to do this to do that to win, or something like that. If I do have questions, like as I'm playing and an issue comes up, I'll just go look it up real quick. I'll, scan, read, whatever. Yeah. Ask the question, like, how do I do this? Or what's the deal with that? And, and just kind of figure stuff out like that. And once I kind of get a more concrete understanding of the game, it's kind of fun to figure it out like a puzzle, like I said. Yeah. But if it's a game I'm like excited about, or like, maybe I can't play like D&D or something like that, and I can't play this moment, I'll watch videos, kind of, I'll watch people play it, understand it, like I can watch people doing it and I kind of pick up the same knowledge
Sure. Yeah.
as they do. That's kind of how I do it at work too. Is like, hey, run me through it, and then shadow me once or twice after I to kind of get the routine down. And once I kind of feel confident, cut me loose, and we'll see where I go.
Yeah, that's how I did a lot in school. With whenever I started playing percussion, they would, I could watch somebody, play the scales on the xylophone or play the part for the show, or I could hear somebody play the rhythm for the drum that I was playing or whatever, and then I'd learn it after watching somebody else do it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a pretty good mimicker.
Yeah.
I see someone do it, and I can just kind of, it takes practice, of course. I'm not going to be immediately as good as they are, but
Yeah.
kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to do, where my hands should be, or what my body should be doing, or whatever it be, of getting to that point.
Derek, how did you learn how to play pickleball?
Just kind of went out and did it. Like I said, I looked up the rules to kind of understand what I was doing, and I had to watch videos.
Yeah.
Because when I'm reading, I'm just not going to get it. This, the terminology I don't super understand. So having some kind of intro
You didn't
video.
subscribe to Pickleball Monthly?
No, I wasn't sure I was going to like it at first.
Yeah.
But I watched some videos that explain the rules and kind of like what playing is. And, I know what tennis looks like. I know what ping pong looks like.
Right.
So once I know the rules, just go out there, cut loose. And then as we had questions of like, oh, is this in or out? Is this allowed? That kind of stuff. Look it up real fast, and then we know forever.
It's pretty cool. I wanted to talk tonight about how Kristen and I learned how to play Marvel Crisis Protocol. Because I know that I have certain ways of learning, and Kristen has certain ways of learning. I had kind of scanned through the rulebook one time before we played this game together. But I knew that Kristen was not going to just want to read over, what's required for every single attack. What does every status do? What does every single thing do? I knew that Kristen wasn't going to want to do that. And so what I did with her was I just literally started from like how to start the game or how to set up your squad. And then we literally just set up our squads together. And she didn't know what any of the characters did. I didn't really know what any of the characters did. But this is a Marvel game, so we just picked characters that went together, that fit within our point limit. Each mission in Marvel Crisis Protocol has a threat limit, and then each character has their threat value. And our threat limit was 17. So Kristen just chose 17 points worth of heroes, and she just chose 5 different X-Men. And then I had 17 points worth of heroes, and I picked 3 Brotherhood of Mutants people. I had Magneto, Sabretooth, and Toad. And then I think I had 5 points left over. I didn't have any other Brotherhood of Mutant people left, so I just went Ultron, who comes in the base box. So that was it. That was my team. And neither of us had really looked at any of their abilities or anything, but we knew, we know the characters well enough, and we're just going to see what it looks like in the game. And then we went to how to set them up on the board, and we set them up on the board. And then we went to what can you do during a turn? And then I took the first turn, ran out with Toad. Toad has an ability where he can interact with objective markers at range 2 instead of range 1. So I just thwipped my tongue and grabbed 2 cosmic gems, and that was it.
Sick.
Yeah. That was it, and then Kristen did her turn. And all she had seen me do was use Toad to grab a cosmic gem, so she just said, okay, I'm gonna run up with Beast and grab a cosmic gem. And then we switched turns again. I said, okay, I'm gonna, move Magneto forward and create a metal construct, which is some of his abilities and stuff like that. So we just kind of like moved and moved our people as we went. And whenever it was like, okay, it's time for Wolverine to make an attack. Let's look up what attacking looks like and what's required and stuff. So it's like, okay, he needs to be in this range. The range that he needs to be in is written next to this attack. This attack is a red physical attack, so I'm going to use my red physical defense. And we just kind of like went through and learned the game by literally playing through, the first opening turn. And we didn't know what any of our characters did at that point. We were just like reading through their cards and saying, oh, that's cool. Ultron can do this whenever terrain blows up. So I'll use Magneto to do that, and then I'll use Ultron's ability to raise up an Ultron drone. So that's kind of what we did, and it was so amazing that by doing that throughout the game, and certainly we had to look up a lot of rules as we went, but I don't think it would have been any faster if I'd read through the entire rulebook cover to cover and then we started, because we would have forgotten everything from that first read through anyway. And then it literally came down to the last die roll like I was describing earlier. So we ended up playing a really balanced match, and all of that just from playing through as we went. It was a ton of fun.
Good.
Yeah. I do think there's, it depends on the complexity of the game, and how big the rule book is, how many different variations there are, So, for example, recently we learned the game Farms Race.
Yeah.
And this past weekend, I went and hung out with one of my best friends from high school, and I taught them Farms Race. And we didn't go through every mutation or every whatever, but the rule book is only like 4 or 5 pages. And so I'm like, you know what? We're just going to go through every part of a turn before we play. And then, and I feel like that helps rather than try to play through a turn. I don't know. I think it depends on how many rules there are and how intuitive the game is before you say, well, we would have forgotten all the rules. I think there's some games where it's helpful just to go through the whole thing before you start, and then there's others where, it's worth playing through it.
There definitely is a thing in board games where, like, here are the base rules, and then if something's written on a card, then the card wins. The card breaks the rules. And so there comes a point where it's like, I don't need to look through all of the cards before I play, or excuse me, maybe it's like I don't need to learn all the rules before I play because the card is going to break the rules anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably Marvel Crisis Protocol, where it's like, there's just so many things that happen.
Yeah. Every single character has its own special rules. And so, every attack is different.
Yeah.
What else can we say about this topic, Benjamin?
I mean, I think there's also this way of approaching a game. I noticed this whenever I went to my friend's house. We actually taught them several games. I own a pretty extensive board game collection. A lot of people don't. And so they're used to playing, the same games that they always play. But they specifically want me to bring new games when I come over. And so I do.
Yeah.
And so there's this thing that happens, I think, where people are like, well, it's too complicated, so I'm going to shut down. It's, decision paralysis, right? And I think...
Yeah.
And so I do want to kind of address that, because decision paralysis is a result of people being afraid of screwing up and maybe not understanding all of the potential impacts or decision trees, and like saying, well, if I make this choice, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm stuck and I can't make a decision. And most people will do one of two things there. They will either completely shut down and just go, well, the game's too complicated. I don't get it. I'm just gonna, whatever. I don't care. Or they do care, but because they can't see the possible outcomes, they'll just, they'll just start blasting, right? They're like, they're like, well, if I don't get it, I'm just gonna do the craziest thing possible that I can think of right now. And then they just kind of, I guess, almost become anti-strategic, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think either of those is right. I think if you're learning a game, let's go back to our roots here. Winning should not be your goal the first time you play a game with people who are experienced. Chances are they will win because they know, or at least they have a significant advantage because they know how to play the game and you don't. And I think experimentation, learning, and growth should be your goals when you sit down to learn a game.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, I can't see 4 moves out because I've never played this game before. And so I'm going to take whatever option seems like it will have the best immediate effect and then see what happens. And if it comes back to bite me because there's a card I didn't know about, well, fine. Now I can make a mental note. Maybe they'll let me rewind if it's something that they already knew about and I would have known about it or whatever. And by the way, if you're teaching a game, let people take back moves that would have been obvious if they'd known a rule.
Yeah.
But if you're learning a game, just be willing to make a rookie mistake. That's why it's called a rookie mistake, because rookies make those mistakes. And you get better at the game by taking your licks as a rookie, and then you become a veteran. And that's one of the things I think Daniel, when he was on this show, commented about. He's world ranked in Victory in the Pacific, and I only play like once a year when I'm playing with him or going to a tournament with him, right? And so I don't study the metagame. I don't know the deep strategy. I wasn't there when the Magic was written, right? But I know the rules, and I know general strategy for that is generally applicable. And so I will knowing that I'm probably going to lose every game of Victory in the Pacific that I play, and that's true. I lose every game I play. I go in thinking, well, I'm gonna try to do something unique and different in an effort to have fun and learn something new about this game. And then I will learn why people don't do it this way, because I'll do it and I'll get smacked around.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people would be better off and have more fun playing games if they took that approach. If they were like not so concerned with winning on their first playthrough and were more into experimentation.
Yeah. I made it a point with Kristen when we were taking out all the pieces for Marvel Cross's Protocol and being like, listen, Kristen, I've never played this game. You've never played this game. We're just trying to figure out the rules, and it doesn't matter who's going to win or lose. And as we were deploying in that first turn, Kristen had moved Wolverine up and grabbed a Cosmic Gem, and I had not yet moved Sabretooth. Mm-hmm. And I was going to move Sabretooth kind of around and then down the center of the field, even though Sabretooth and Wolverine were both on the side of the battlefield. I was kind of going to send him up the middle, and Kristen goes, come on, Sabretooth, coward. And I was like, fine. And I just moved Sabretooth straight up to fight Wolverine. Uh-huh. Just because that's, cinematic. That's their rivalry.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been better for my Sabretooth to run up the middle and do something else. But I was like, we're here to learn the game, and we're here to learn, what does combat look like? How do we make attacks? How does healing factor work and stuff like that? Having our characters fight is the best way to do that. And then when Kristen called Sabretooth a coward, that was just a funny way to just lean into it and say, okay, this may be a rookie mistake, but I'm just going to go into it anyway because it's fun, and who wins or loses doesn't matter here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she did end up killing Sabretooth in 2 turns with Wolverine by himself.
Wow.
It was crazy. Derek and Randy, anything you guys want to add?
Actually, I have a special question for Randy, and that's, how do you go about learning a new RPG system, especially as someone who commonly DMs? That's something when you're getting ready to DM a system for the first time. How do you learn the rules in a way that makes that might make that different from how you might learn a board game or a card game?
I usually get the player's handbook and the DM guide, whatever, if there's both of those, and I typically just kind of like start reading and trying to just go through the introduction that they provide. And I usually try to create a character because I know that's going to be one of the first steps that I have to guide someone else through. So, like, I'll try to make a character. If I'm ever unsure on something, then I typically, honestly, YouTube. I've watched tens of hours of just videos on YouTube of just like how the systems work and how character creation worked and what each. I'll go through videos of, okay, this class, it's like here's a whole rundown, 20-minute video all about this one class and like its different subclasses. And that way I'm like, okay, so now I know what this thing does, how it does it, is it martial or magic? How does the magic system work? And then I usually kind of go back into the player handbook and try to read just like, the rules of play, how do the systems work in terms of like, trying to attempt something. Well, what do you need to roll? So yeah, that's one of the few times I think I'm more just read the book. Because a lot of times I find that boring, but I guess I like the RPG stuff a little bit more. There's a little more kind of lore sometimes kind of built into it, which I get interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes reading those rules, you find like little things like, oh, I didn't think of something like that. That's a cool mechanic that they have that like another system I've played with before doesn't have. So, you know, now that I know this new mechanic, but I read it in the rule book, you know, this is just like a new thing I can add to my game.
Randy, I think it's so cool that you said that whenever you open a role-playing game book, you'll just make a character, like immediately just from the character creation stuff. And I do that too. Whenever I open a new rulebook that for a new game that I've never played before, you know, before I start getting into any of the rest of the book, most role-playing games will have character creation at the beginning. And so I'll do that. And then as I'm reading everything else, I'll use the character I made as like a frame.
Mm-hmm.
If the character I made wants to do XYZ tasks, what do I roll? What do I check? What do I,
exactly.
You know, what numbers do I look at? Where on the character sheet do I go to that? And I just kind of treat myself and my new character as a new player.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it would be like for all the other players in the game. They say, well, I've got this character sheet and it's got all these numbers on it. What do they mean whenever you ask me to do something? So yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah, it also kind of helps you figure out, like, I mean, if I finish making a character and I'm like, I don't know if I really like the character, you know, if I didn't find a class or anything that I liked, it's like, maybe this game isn't for me. Maybe, you know.
Maybe this game sucks.
I mean, it's not that it sucks. It just maybe, like, you know, maybe I'm not into, like, existential dread horror Cthulhu stuff. You know, maybe I don't want to think about grit and I don't know what other mechanics those kind of games use. Chutzpah.
Sanity. Chutzpah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever run into that yet.
Benjamin, whenever we make the War Room RPG,
Chutzpah.
your stats have to be grit, gumption, chutzpah,
Moxie.
moxie.
There's a
Did
game that already uses that.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, I saw it on what was it, Dimension 20?
I thought it was just a joke post.
No. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna find it now because there's already a system like that.
Oh man.
Cojones.
Gumption,
Cojones, I like that
Chutzpah,
one.
Moxie, Childlike Wonder, the cut of your jib. What is it?
The cut of your jib.
And
Is that charisma?
and a certain je ne sais quoi.
Well, okay, what game is this?
No, that's somebody saying that was a joke post, but I saw it and it was like whenever you fail a roll, you got a token.
All I see is this Tumblr post.
No, I watched a thing with Brendan Lee Mulligan where they were using a system that used Moxie tokens.
So funny.
Oh, Kids on Bikes.
Oh, I have heard that. Choose your own destiny in this storytelling, rules light tabletop role playing game, where adventure is a bike away.
I want to see if I can find the character sheet.
Oh, this wants me to buy it for $10.
I might, because so when I watched the Dimension 20 Mentopolis, they were using the Kids on Bike system. It wasn't a Kids on Bike thing. They had altered it to fit what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But they were using the system, and it looked really fun.
Charm, brains, fight, flight, brawn, and grit.
Oh, okay. And then you got Moxie tokens.
Oh, okay.
That you could.
Okay, so fight and flight are opposing stats. Brains and brawn are opposing stats. Charm and grit are opposing stats.
Yeah.
And then it looks like you can get adversity tokens.
Oh, it was that okay. In the game, they had changed it to Moxie.
That's
Moxie
what
tokens.
I'm looking
Yeah, I
at.
see it. They had changed it to Moxie tokens in the playthrough.
That's pretty cool.
So, anybody out there, try Kids on Bikes.
Derek, do you remember learning Mysterium with the gang?
The board game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you remember what we did to learn it? Was that just a read the rule book, move the pieces around, look at the pictures?
I think we just, I mean, it wasn't like a ton of rules or anything. I think it was like maybe like 3 or 4 page rule book.
Yeah.
So I think we just figured out the objective, figured out the setup, and then just kind of cut foot loose. I mean, it was just like, I don't know. I feel like we just kind of did it, figured it out.
Yeah. Played through a couple practice turns.
Yeah. There was the Horrified that we played also,
Uh-huh.
which is a game about, for the listener, a game about like these cryptid monsters like Bigfoot, Jersey Devil, etc. And your people trying to stop them from completing their objective. I think we read the rule book on that one.
Yeah.
But I think it was a lot of figuring out, like, oh, this is where we get the goats, and this is where we get the weapons and all that stuff. And I feel like once we had started playing, we were like starting to figure a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Because we would see from like the scenario, it's like the Banshee.
Yeah, the Banshee.
And it's like the Banshee needs goats, and we're like, what? Why does the Banshee need goats?
The Jersey Devil. No, the Chupacabra.
The Chupacabra. This is a Chupacabra.
Yeah,
that's right.
The Banshee was something about like a chorus. You had to like build violins or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like the Chupacabra needs goats, and every time we go shopping and pull an item token, we have the possibility of pulling a goat.
Yes.
But we didn't realize that from the rulebook. That was all just from the specific scenario. And so it was kind of weird, but you kind of just had to play a couple turns, and then somebody was like, oh my god, I got a goat. So we're like, oh, so that's how you get goats. Just stuff like that. Well, cool. Is there any words of wisdom we can give, Benjamin?
So experiment
in the ways that you learn best. If you find that you understand a game really well by playing through a practice turn with somebody, well, then the next time you go to learn a new game, make sure to tell your learner, like, hey, can we get all the components laid out first before we start reading the rules so that I can move stuff around and stuff like that? Or if you learn really well from watching a video or, watching Brennan Lee Mulligan or Will Wheaton used to have a YouTube show called Tabletop where they would play board games too. But if you know that you're really good at that, maybe learn which game you're going to play ahead of time and watch the video for it. If you know this weekend we're going to play Twilight Imperium and you've never played, well, maybe go watch a video beforehand.
Right. And I think you're bringing up a good point here, which is take some responsibility for being an active learner. Like, this is not in school where you have to take classes that you didn't want to take so that you could graduate. This is a chance to have fun, and either you have volunteered to learn this game or someone is inviting you to play a game that they think you'll enjoy and that they do enjoy. And if you're really not interested in learning a new game, tell them that. Say, look, I would just rather play Monopoly. Yeah. Now, they may choose not to be your friend anymore. But, once you've agreed to learn the game, don't make it a miserable experience for everybody. Be an active learner. Be interested in the whatever part of the game you're going to be interested in. The lore, the art, the game mechanics, the group aspect, especially for party games and such. But try to learn. And what that means is pay attention when they're explaining the rules. And if it's gotten to where they've told you 10 rules and you're like, I can't hold it anymore, say, you know what? Let's play through a turn, and the first time we don't understand something, we can
go look it up. Yeah.
Pull back out the rule book and do it some more. Right? Just kind of go through, and whatever it is that you learn best, like you said, if you learn best by watching a video, ask what games you're going to be playing next time you come over, and, on your lunch break, pull out your phone and
do your homework. Or except that this is for fun. No one is forcing you. Your state government is not forcing you to learn how to play Marvel Crisis Protocol. But if you ever want to play it, then you need to do your homework or practice a little bit.
Yeah. But, homework, I think this is something that school doesn't really get credit for, and especially nowadays where a lot of people don't assign homework. But life is full of homework. If you want to get that significant other, a lot of times you got to do your homework. Find out, do a little bit of studying about what they like or don't like. Pay attention to the things on their dating profile if you found them online or something. Ask their friend, especially the further into the relationship you get, you start asking questions, and you don't just plan a date based on just the things you want to do. You have to think about, well, what sort of things do they want to do? Where are we going to go next? Let me make a reservation. Let me make sure that I have enough in my account to call an Uber afterwards. All these things, like every fun thing you do in your life and every important thing you do in your life involves a bit of homework and a bit of planning. And you know what? If you're going to get involved into a hobby, like you really want to get into a fandom or a thing that you want to take further than just a casual weekend, that involves homework too. Our Magic involves making decks in our free time, right? My Fantasy Baseball involves listening to podcasts, watching games, planning moves. And if it's not the sort of thing you want to get into, that's fine to say, I want my gaming weekend to just be fun without homework. I want to just show up and play. That's fine. But that also means either communicate that you don't want to learn a new game and put it on them to say, like, look, I am not up for it. I'm exhausted. I just want to play something I'm comfortable with. Or if you're willing to put in that little extra energy, pay attention, be involved, and try and be an active participant in learning process. Explain how you learn and be helpful, right? Be the goody two shoes in the front of the class who raises
and
their
asks
hand
questions.
and asks questions. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's my word of wisdom on that. Is like, look, the responsibility is on you to learn. Like we did our episode about teaching the game, and we talked about how do you get people engaged. How do you pick out something that they'll like? And hey, I strongly encourage our listeners to go listen to that episode 27.
No, that was episode 5.
But now we're...
Episode 27 was the psychographics.
Oh.
Well, I strongly recommend episode 27 too.
Absolutely. And episode 27 will help you with both teaching and learning. So, okay. But yeah, episode 5 is about teaching your game. But this one, it's flipped. Someone else is teaching you the game. You put in the effort and the energy and the good vibes, the willingness to learn your game. So, know thyself.
Cool. Good job, us. This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.